I was thinking, is it really safe out there? It's just kind of been with all the drama, and I'm hoping that things have finally subsided. That's actually been one of the questions. One is it safe out there, and two, what's really going on? Today, by request, my butterfly is asking me, what are your thoughts on the Turner Syndrome Society? And matter of factly, I hope, helpful request. One of those ever continuing episodes of Brother Mark Turner Syndrome Butterflies in Life. Also, just kind of enjoying really going back to the archives. An old, I think that was not a '78 recording. It was probably an old recording from acetate tape, but all the way back from 1936. If anybody who follows that, Serge Kuchevitsky conducting the Boston Symphony Orchestra. So, just a really clean recording. But you're going to find my comments are just kind of matter-of-factly. If you're looking at anything fiery or bombastic, it's not safe. But first up, my response, and then the TS group that I'm part of, the Facebook group of Turner Syndrome Butterfly Hall, and our response to the Turner Syndrome Society is to be amicable. And we're looking for an amicable, solution to try to resolve the conflict. And I think it was really, when it really boils down to it, it was two people who kind of took control of situations and really made it unsafe for everybody. First made it unsafe for me and my wife, but then other butterflies were starting to feel unsafe, unsure, is it safe to come out? And then, obviously it's really gotten out of hand, but there's a pervading sense of a lot of us butterflies and friends aren't really feeling safe right now. But also at the same time, I'd like to see what we can come up with an amicable solution. And actually, one staff member doesn't care for me, but another staff member actually got a hold of me last November and asked if I'd be interested in renewing my membership. Wasn't at the time, but it's certainly that staff member wants to reach out to me. It's like, hey, I'm game. But I wanted to just kind of step back and answer some butterflies' requests and say, Mark, what are your thoughts? And let me explain, as a background, an open system, an open organization, an organization that has an open door policy and is transparent, as opposed to one who is closed, seems to have a hidden agenda, is trying to hide things. That's kind of the abiding sense that a lot of us are just kind of feeling. Quoting from some class notes from Ohio State. They say that when you have a lack of transparency, it can have devastating effects that can leave a permanent stain on a company or brand's image. Brands cannot thrive without the public's trust. And they cite the recent case that demonstrates the negative outcomes of failing to be transparent in the emissions scandal at Volkswagen. And here, the Turner Syndrome Society is not responsible for the bullying. But I think at the same time, I think a lot of people are wondering, why no response? Why crickets? Why no response? Why is everybody being silent? Actually, since I'm getting the many Turner sisters that I've spoken with myself are scared or anxious over the Turner Syndrome Society U.S. refusing to acknowledge the bullying. And the question that they're raising, I'll bring it back up again, is who's in charge, or who can we trust? Is it safe? And I think by having the staff member and this disgruntled TS mom take charge of the situation, the safety net was removed, and there was some very severe damage, including the apparent suicide of some butterflies. That's pretty serious stuff there. And I've had some other people who have confirmed it. But going back to the class from Ohio State, their recommendations are leadership needs to be on the same page. Ensure that organizational goals are aligned with the entire company organization. Open the decision-making process. That's very important, because one TS mom didn't want me in the organization and decided to spread rumors that I was, there was a social deviant and a lawbreaker, but nobody was allowed to openly investigate it. Two people, one person said it, the staff member ran with it, and it was not her place. Something serious like that should have gone to the board, should have been investigated. Also, nobody from Turner Syndrome Society has ever called me and asked me. And as a consumer, if somebody wants to support the organization, it leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Says, can I trust your organization? Hire right. Encourage face-to-face communications. I have not seen any. I've not even heard, and I'm a little concerned because I've not even heard an apology. I've not heard anything. We're aware of the situation. We are investigating. I could live with that. But in spite of all the house cleaning, the bullying stopped, but it just still strikes me as damage control. Like, what happened? It's still crickets. You want to treat all employees, clients, donors, and TS supporters the same. You want to open your financials, and I'm sure they have. I've seen the financial statements and the appropriate rubber stamping and approval by a well-established accountancy group, and giving their approvals on the financials. So that I have no problems with, and that I'm perfectly okay. But what I'm just in a general way seeing is what I'm seeing is a closed-door organization. One person, actually two people, tried to execute policy without accountability and due process. Nobody did an investigation. Two people acted as judge, jury, and executioner. And that just did not sit well with the Turner Syndrome community. And when the bullying continued, there was an abiding sense, bullying? We got no bullying problem. As a consumer, as a parent, as a TS mom or dad, can I trust the organization? And then, and then also, if these two people are damaging the organization, why should they be in there? Remember Marge Schott? The Cincinnati Reds had to do something to remove a major public relations scandal. I'll let you do your own research. But we've got one person who's interested. Hey, Mark, would you like to renew your memberships? I've gotten an email. And then the other one. But we have one person that was acting as a gatekeeper and would block communications to anybody else in the organization instead of being an open investigation. Now, obviously, the claims that were leveled, those have been, those have been thoroughly debunked. we know there's something not true, and we don't, we've been through that, so I don't think we have to belabor that one. But again, what bullying? I don't say bullying. And the other question that I'm kind of hearing in general conversation is, who's in charge? I mean, shouldn't there be a board in charge? Shouldn't there be, staff meetings, and then the group getting together to iron out the direction of the group, especially in this controversy. As one observer put it, this observer said, "It sounds like the inmates are running the asylum." And that's, once again, that overriding question, but who's in charge? And the fact that nobody's been open, it just, for a butterfly, that can create some massive anxiety. Now, up until January 2019, I had a very positive relationship with Turner Syndrome Society. I have been to their butterfly walks. I have been to a regional conference. I've had some very stellar relationships and acquaintances, and was able to advocate for women, adult women with Turner syndrome, and offer support and finances with no expectations, nothing being asked. And a lot of people are just excited they would make the trips, excited that my phone was on at all hours of the night. At the same time, though, there was one staff member who just didn't particularly care for me. In the January 2019 and on, it wasn't the first incident. In July of 2018, I and actually some other Turner syndrome sisters were actually confused about the location of the 2019 Turner syndrome conference. Usually in the metropolitan areas, but this one was kind of, just for a lot of us, felt way off the beaten map. And I just very matter of factly made an inquiry, and the staff member tore into me and saying that I was using inflammatory rhetoric. I mean, it really was, and in the really ugly scene. There was a TS mom though, that really came in and saved the day, and I'm still grateful. And she was able to take control of the situation and reassured everybody, we'll work everything out. These are the reasons why. This is why we had to have it here instead of there, and everyone went, oh, okay. Personally, I'd love to see that person be the National Communications Director, but that $4.44 will get me a Venti non-fat what and sugar and a raw latte at my favorite coffee emporium. But that explosive response from that staff member didn't really inspire any confidence. It's also well known that there was a TS mom that was not happy with my involvement in the TS community. Both my wife and I were getting threatening text messages, and she also had a lot of resentment that I was supporting Butterfly to go to our first conference for special time, and she was tearing into me. So how come where do you get this money? Why do you do this? And for a Christian woman who's in leadership, when we look at the fruit of the Spirit, that was very disturbing. I mean, the other thing that she's really resentful is when we lost the Turner syndrome sister in December of 2018. The TS community was delighted that I actually came forward, I stayed with them, that they offered support when we lost the Turner system. And this TS mom was actually very resentful, and pretty much told what, short of using the F word, pretty much said what we could do with her advocacy. Wasn't really a very charitable response. And so obviously, when when she found out that I was going to a conference at the invitation of other members of the Turner syndrome community. She and the other staff member decided to lash out into a one-sided cyberbullying campaign, and it was a one-sided. There was no chance for open discussion. It was those two people ran the show, and the drama made it ultimately unsafe for everybody. Now, the other thing too that I was thinking of is that was a personal beef, and that Tia's mom should have never used, and the staff person should have never used the Turner Syndrome Society as a bully pulpit. By doing so, they've really created a potential legal or public relations nightmare that I don't know if they're going to be able to resolve from. And the staff member has just played judge, jury, and executioner, and just adamantly did not want to hear any other sides of the story. And I know if I were an upper level executive, and my PR person is jeopardizing the integrity of my firm, I would be asking that. I'd be asking that staff member for her resignation. I mean, now today, it's just, we go back to the same question. I mean, okay, the Turner Syndrome Society wasn't responsible for the individual members that did the bullying. And there's nothing actionable there. Okay, so, but the fact that there was bullying drama going on, and it was crickets, that really didn't inspire confidence for me, and it really left some butterflies either a cold sweat of fear, anxiety, rage, some major discontent. Although I must admit, if you have a march shot in your organization, that for the good of your organization, you got to do something. I mean, I'm of the opinion that because of the damage that staff person did, and I think a lot of butterflies concur with me on this one, I'm still of the opinion that it might be in the best interest of the staff person to tender a resignation for the good of the organization. And I know a lot of other people are not really happy with that staff person being in employment. Now, okay, it's quiet now, but butterflies are still asking me, and I'm hearing chatter on the forums. Why is the Turner Syndrome Society so secretive? Who can we trust? Who's in charge? And why are we left with that impression that the inmates are running the asylum? Well, here's just my, again, 50 cents a cup of coffee. But here's some of the professional recommendations in situations like these, when you've had a major blown it. I believe it was Johnson & Johnson with maker Tylenol, when they had that cyanide scare. They got a public relations firm to help them out through the crisis, and they immediately took ownership, and restored trust in the Tylenol brand. I mean, they took it off of the market, but they did appropriate thing to restore public trust. But I would either look at see if a public relations firm or that specializes in crisis situations, especially where the brand has taken a major hit, or somebody that's really good at crisis mediation. And we've got qualified board members that are really good at it too. and maybe we need to to call on them. I wouldn't want to impose on them, but I think if they're willing to give it their time and their energy, I think their input would be very welcome. I would like to see the Turner Syndrome Society advocate against bullying. It is certainly part of the Turner Syndrome experience. I'd like to see more open door policy on it. I would also like to see the Turner Syndrome Society provide counseling resources, or maybe large get-togethers on the help butterflies who've been victims of the bullying, and then also provide greater anti-bullying advocacy. So those are those are some of my thoughts. As you can see, it's not confrontational. It's matter of factly. I mean, if I had my druthers, and I may not be that way, and that's okay. But if I had my druthers, I would just like to see somebody just say those two words of, "I'm Mark, we're sorry." And if that staff person wants to get back to me and says, "Hey, Mark, you want to renew your membership?" Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy. So again, random thoughts, just my thoughts, thoughts or feelings, and what I'm kind of the general sense of conversations that I've heard. But ultimately, I understand why the butterflies, and myself too, is just afraid to stick their neck out. Say, is it safe out there? Can we come out now? Well, as far as I'm concerned, yes. You want to get in touch with me? Hey, as long as you're not bullying or attacking. But if you got general questions, you're certainly welcome to get a hold of me. You're welcome to join a Facebook group. It's called Turner Syndrome Butterfly Hall. We've also got another woman admin who's really good, and she talks to a lot of the women, and that's fine. And women is the great best way to go. But any of the people who know me know that I'm always there for an adult Turner Syndrome sister in need. No questions asked, no strings attached. 90% listening, and maybe 5% with a little sense of humor, 2% with a little advice, and I don't know. The other stuff is miscellaneous, but and if I made things unsafe, well, hey, I'll see what I can do. Anybody knows me knows if I blow it, I'm willing to come clean. Now, if things still don't look right to you, or you're still having reservations, there's still something going on, or you don't feel right, and you just need somebody to talk to, there's lots of good resources out there. And as I always say, if you see something, say something. And as far as I'm concerned, I'll do everything possible to make sure that a butterfly feels safe. Because if you don't feel safe, I don't feel safe. Well, those are my thoughts and feelings. As always, take what you like, leave the rest, and I'll talk to you next time.